Hi and welcome to another episode. Obviously we've got the PC Engine graphics and 8bitdo's wireless gamepad for it, and it comes with this nice little dongle. And as I said in the last episode, I want that dongle inside. Now, to be completely honest, before I even start doing all of this, I have already done this and tested it and then took it all back out again. So I can show you how to do it because I wanted to be 100% sure on how to actually do it. So obviously, problem with this dongle is that it's completely sealed, unlike the one that's for the the SN30 Pro or whatever it is in your region. The SNES looking gamepad. I purposely took off the case on that one because you could do that. It had some screws. Now this is nice and tiny, but it's completely sealed. But I still don't want this look. I don't think this is a good look. And obviously you could do it for the second one as well, because you can actually run two of these at a time. But before you actually do install it inside, please sync it. I don't think it really matters, but please do it. Make sure your gamepad works and everything like that before you mess around sticking things inside. So let's put the dongle to one side, put the gamepad to one side, and as you can see, I've already cheated. As I've said, I've already done. I took all the screws out, so there's only 4 of them there. And then let's turn this over, take the lid off. It actually says PC there. I don't know if you can see, but it says PC. Let's put the top lid to one side. We've got a bit of plastic for the switch, just a little slider thing for the actual switch there. Put that to the side, and then we've got 4 more screws. Now the reason why I wanted to leave the screws on before I show you is this is the heatsink for one of the CPUs. There is a thermal pad there. So be very careful when you're doing all of this, because what you don't want to do is ruin that thermal pad. So I'll do a jump cut after undoing all these screws. There we go, I've taken all the screws out. Take this off, it comes straight up, there's no sort of adhesive. It comes straight up. I know I called it like a thermal shield or something just before the jump cut, but basically it sort of is and isn't as far as I can see. Obviously it takes the thermal heat away, but also I think it's probably used as a bit of a shielding as well against the chips to keep up with whatever your region's idea of you're not allowed to send radio signals out from things. So let's put that to the one side as well. And while we're here, I'll zoom in a little bit. And as we can see, it says side A, and it's actually version 3 of the board. And even though this is a launch thing, it's version 3 of this particular board. Maybe it's because it's the ones that are fitting inside here, but from what I understand, it's all the same one in all 3 of them. So even though the 16, TurboGrafx 16 is a wider one, it's still this tiny motherboard. So let's take this out and put that to one side as well. And as I say, I've already done this. So you will notice, let's zoom in even more, let it focus, that the soldering points here look not as nice as the ones that are there, because from what I've gathered is that this edge is port number 1 and then this edge of them is port number 2. So if you're trying to put 2 of these in here, be aware which one's which, but at the same time, since there's no button on the actual dongle, it doesn't really matter. You just, when you figure out which gamepad's which, label one of them up so that you know that that's the one that's player 1 and the other one's player 2. So first things first, what we need to do is figure out how we're going to wire this up. Now, as I say, we can't crack this open. Well, you could, but you've got chances of damaging it. So what my idea was to use these. Now this is just a little PCB with a USB port on it, and then some pins. It didn't actually have the pins already soldered in, so I had to do that myself, but if you're watching this, you probably already know how to do that. So, just make sure that they're done, and then do a continuity check to make sure that you've done it properly, so for your point to point, because you might not do, because I've noticed that the points to solder to aren't exactly that great. So make sure there is actually continuity there before you start messing around with the rest of it. So let's put that to one side as well, which I've put with a dongle, which is just out of shot. And then using these type of wires, obviously that'll go onto the little plug that I've just shown you. I'm then going to chop off all the plugs on this end, because I feel that here like this, it's just going to get in the way of this hole and everything like that. So I'll sort that out and chop all the plugs off so there's a bit of wire actually sticking out at the end of them all, and then I'll also tin each one. Tinning just means to put some solder on the end of the wire before you actually do the soldering, because hot solder likes to stick to hot solder. It speaks for itself really. So put that there. And the other thing that I'm going to do is put some K&R tape down just above here, because there is these tiny resistors, capacitors, whatever they are. I'm no idea with electronics. Basically I just don't want to end up slipping and burning these off by accident, because as I said a few times, my channel's for people that are maybe not as technically minded when soldering and stuff like that, or as skillful at doing it as lots of other YouTubers are, because I know I'm not. I can get by, but I'm not wonderful at doing it. So that's why I want to make sure that I'm coming up with ideas on the people who haven't quite got that skill level can also do this sort of stuff, because quite frankly I've not got that kind of skill level. So I'll do a jump cut with some K&R tape on there already. Okay, so there's the K&R tape on, just to couple up those components as I said, and then of course there's this screw hole, and to sort that out, obviously I've not double laid it round, there's still just an edge, but to just poke a hole through so when it comes to putting everything back in again there isn't a problem. As I say, the one that I've got to do now is chop off these male plugs. Okay, on to the fun bit of tinning these. So I'll get the soldering iron. Just start on one so the easiest way to do it really is to get some solder on the end of the tip. There we go, pull the solder, maybe run it along the bit that's there. I'm sure there's more skillful people going, no, that's not how you do it, but this is how I do it. It always seems to work. I'll separate these last two so they're a bit easy to do. That wasn't that exciting. Let's get a bit more on this last one. There we go. Clean off the nib of the soldering iron, put that to one side. Make sure that there isn't any strange wonderful bits. You can see there's a tiny little bit of copper just there. Don't want to accidentally get that on the motherboard. Right, so here's the motherboard. And as I say, you can see the dog's dinner I've made of the solder there, but that's actually getting it back off again, not soldering it in the first place. What you might want to do is also solder some new solder to these points. You might want to, you might not want to. Now at this point it doesn't really matter which way round that you've soldered these on, because they're just funny colours at the moment. Let's make sure that we've not got any jaggy bits all over the place. And then I'm going to start with the one that's closest to me. I believe that's taken. Actually, that second one hasn't taken. Try again. Obviously you're trying to not make joins with the ones next to it. we go. It doesn't always take. It's very thin wires, and I've already taken some solder off at this point, so I might need to put some on myself. Yep, that's going to need some new solder. I know this isn't exactly the riveting bit. If you feel like you need to jump ahead, then do so. Hopefully that's a decent enough connection. What we can do is now plug this in. Now this is the bit that you might feel like, well, this is the underside of the board, we need to plug it in upside down. No, you don't. You plug it the right way up. I know that maybe feels counterintuitive, but it's what you do. And so let's do that. Come on, let's get them all at once. There we go. And then we need to do a continuity test, so I'll do that now. Hope for the best. Actually, let's bring it on, let's see what I actually use. Let's zoom back out again. Just to make sure. Oh, didn't press the button. There we go. So it beeps. So beep at this end. Maybe I should do this way around. Right, so that's the blue wire pushing to here. There we go. And then we've got the magenta wire, the grey wire, and then the white wire. Yay, we've got a good connection across the board there. Which for me, of course, is the second time around, so I definitely should have got that. Right, so now that we know that they're okay, I'm going to put some more kind of tape on. Let's just quickly find the end. This is just to help stop it from slipping off, or, you know, maybe my soldering's not the best. So what we need to do now though is get it inside the case. We also need to come up the side. So what I'm going to do is fold it this way. Maybe not too tight, but I'm going to do it that way so it folds away. Obviously you could use longer wires and maybe try to make it fit on the other side, but I'm doing it this way for me. There is plastic pegs inside the case, so you know that it's nice and flat. So we know everything's alright continuity wise, so let's risk it. Let's plug in the dongle, get the HDMI. Come on, HDMI, plug in. Why do plugs always mess up when you try and do it? There we go, let's start in. And then get the power in. There we go, nice good connection. Let me go to the big screen for that so you can see it turn on. Flick the little switch. Fingers crossed. I hope your fingers crossed out there. There we go. Oh, I was getting worried. Have we got a blue flashing light? No, we don't. Oh, we do have a blue flashing light. There we go. And we can press home button. And there we go. it's sunk. So we now have a nice connection. Press run. Let's make sure the controls all work before we tidy it all in away. Don't want to do it for too long because we haven't got the heat shield thingy on yet. Left and right works. Yeah, everything works. Because I mean, why wouldn't it? If it wasn't going to sync, it wouldn't sync, would it? So let's turn the console off. Go back to full screen for the video. Okay, the console's turned off. I'm just going to pull the cable out the back because some consoles, even though you've turned them off, the truth is they're still on standby. So we need to get all this in here now. Let's put this metal thing back down again. Again, there's little plastic pegs so you know that you're in the right place. There we go. Now I'll do a jump cut while I've screwed all these in. Oh, I was going to do all the screws, but I've just realised what you want to do is do crossways, and also when you're putting the screws in, go backwards just a little bit. You'll feel it sort of drop in, and then you carry on screwing in. Because obviously what you want to make sure is that you're doing this properly and not driving through a wire. I believe I've got a wire in the way, it's not letting me in, so I'm going to have to undo it again. That's a shame, I had hoped it would all work. Okay, so all the screws are back in again, not forgetting to poke holes through your canine tape, just in case you've forgotten to do that. I mean, not like I did, but you know. Let's try to make sure this folds in nicely now. So what I want to try to do is get this to fit in a really nice way, and I believe that the nicest way is maybe to do it this way around, which means really getting more canine tape on these connections because we don't want to short anything. Yeah, that would be the nicest way to do it, I think. So a little bit more canine tape, so I'll slap some on there. Okay, so that's some canine tape on there. What I've also done is rolled a little bit of canine tape around, which it likes to do all by itself anyway, just so that we can stick this down here, plastic, so it matters because it's this chip here that we need to be worried about. But obviously this is where we've got the canine tape on here, so there's no accidental connections. And what I'm going to do is just press that down so that when we come to putting the lid on, it's not wobbling all over the place, and then it doesn't lose its place either. So let's get the lid on. Oh, don't forget the switch. Making sure it's the right way around. Obviously this way around. Isn't it? No, which way around is it? This way. Of course it is. There we go, that's in there. Let's close the lid up. There we go. Closed. Any rattling? Actually, you get more rattling from this bit of plastic. So, another jump cut as I screw everything down. With the last screw, same with all the screws. Go backwards a little bit, you feel it pop in, and then go forwards. You know, righty tighty. There we go. Put the screwdriver down. Pick up the HDMI cable. Get the right way in. Same with the power. Put it down. Whoa, all that focus rubbish. Turn it on. Get the gamepad. Go full screen so you can see everything. Right, so it's booted up perfectly fine. Press the home button. And there we go, blue light instantly because we'd already sunk it and everything before. We move around, yes we can. Before I actually start a game, let's make sure that I can do this at a range, because obviously there's just this. I don't think a bit of plastic is going to make any difference, but just for people out there who are going to ask a question anyway, I'll go to the door of this room, so you'll hear me get up out of my chair and everything. And then way over here from my door, yes, I can control everything. just in case you didn't hear me, yes, it works from way over there. Basically it'll be fine when I sit on the sofa and have this set up at the the main TV. So there's nothing wrong there. Let's try to find a game. Oh, which ones has like, I'll know if it's player one or not. Let's try this one. Press run. Can we skip all that? Yep, we can still skip. Come on. Yep, normal mode. Press run button. Press run button. Or push run button, as it says in these games, it seems. Yep, playing one. Let's see why. So I definitely think I've selected the correct part of the USB. As I said before, you can do the same thing again and have a player two. But this works perfectly fine, so I'm really happy with this. Let's go back to full screen, turn the console off. Yeah, I believe this is a nice little mod to do, not too difficult, gets the job done, stops all the silly wires, hides away the dongle. I'm not too sure I would recommend using the normal gamepad, USB gamepad at the same time as a dongle being in there, so you might want to get those little USB cap things you can get, little rubber things. I think I can quickly show you one, nick it from my Mega Drive, or steal it from my Mega Drive. These things, it just covers it up, stop someone sticking a USB in so easily. Obviously they could do it if they really want to, but it does stop them from doing it, just feeling like doing it. There we go, job done. So I hope that's been really informative for people, and it'd be great to see other YouTubers doing the same sort of thing. So as always, happy gaming.